We're going to look at Moses, and we're going to see how he did not trust God. You all remember Meribah when he struck the rock. He was upset. All the people were complaining. They wanted to go back to Egypt, and they were basically saying, why are we following you? And people were trying to cause an uprising. And so Moses, instead of speaking to the rock, which God told him to do, he struck the rock, not once, but twice. And that had, well, you might say devastating effects for Moses in the fact that he could not enter the promised land because of that one thing. But just know that God has a plan. You have to listen to him. It's not about your feelings, it's not about your emotions, not about your whims. It's about what God is telling you to do, and that you want to listen and be obedient to him. And that's what Moses does in the end. And we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to break this down to a few parts, probably 3 parts, and we're going to go through it. And we're going to see how Moses is giving his farewell address. He knows he's not going to be able to enter the land, so he's sharing with them what he wants them to know. He says this, "And you shall remember all the way which the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not." So you might remember the 40 years in the desert. Okay, I think all of humanity can relate to this in their own personal lives. We all experience the desert at some point in our lives, and maybe even recurringly. But for the people of Israel, the entire generation, except for 2 people, Joshua and Caleb, were the only 2 that entered the promised land. The rest did not. They didn't enter. So that entire generation passed away or fell to God's judgment. And what God is asking Moses to reveal to the people is to remember what happened. Don't forget. Read the Song of Moses. It's beautiful. In fact, there's some wonderful YouTube videos that actually put it to music. But listen to it. Listen to the words of God. They apply today as much as they did then. And so God is saying, don't forget. Don't forget what happened during the time in the wilderness. And Moses is raising up that next generation who's going to enter the promised land following Joshua and Caleb and the priesthood and all the leadership within Israel. And so he says this, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. Therefore choose life, that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice, and clinging to him. For that means life to you and length of days, that you may dwell in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them." This is about the promises of God being fulfilled at the time of fulfillment, that God had set this plan in motion, going all the way back to Abraham and all the descendants of Abraham. Hundreds of years have passed. They are a people of God, one God, not the many gods of the time which they live, but one. And now he's going to hand on his reign to Joshua to go into the promised land, lead his people. It's a new age that the people are now entering into God's promised land. And so he's saying, don't forget the way it was. Okay, you've been given all these gifts of God. Don't become fat and lazy and start worshiping other gods. And so it's a promise, but it's a promise fulfilled, and it's also a warning of what will happen if they turn their back on God. So that's the setup. Okay, that's part 1. Now in the next episode, we're going to look at part 2, and we're going to see what happens.